Let's bring you an update on our top story this news hour. US President Donald Trump says he will be nominating White House National Security Advisor Mike Waltz as the next US ambassador to the United Nations. In a post on Truth Social, he said Waltz has worked hard to put American interests first and will do the same in his new role. Trump added Secretary of State Marco Rubio will serve as National Security Advisor in the interim. For more on this, let's bring in Alan Fisher. He's joining us live from the White House. So just a few hours after news agencies reporting that Mike Waltz, and interestingly his deputy, will be stepping down from their positions, we have some confirmation from Donald Trump, Alan.
Well, he's out as National Security Advisor. That's clear. There had been talk that Donald Trump had grown disillusioned with Mike Waltz, not least because of the incident back in March, when, of course, he inadvertently added a journalist to a signal group that was talking about airstrikes in Yemen. At that point, Donald Trump said he was standing by him, that he was a fine man and that he would learn from this. But there have been reports that he was looking for alternatives for National Security Advisor at least for a number of days, if not for longer than that. And that gained momentum over the last few hours when people were saying that he was absolutely going to be fired as National Security Advisor, but perhaps the White House was looking for a, quote, soft landing for him. It appears he's found that. He will be nominated to be the US Ambassador to the United Nations. Of course, that was due to be Elise Stefanik, a congresswoman from upstate New York, but that had to be pulled because they were worried about losing the Republican majority in the House of Representatives, not least because one of the seats that was up for the election was Mike Waltz, who stepped into the role as National Security Advisor. What is interesting in the post from Donald Trump is that Marco Rubio will now act interim as National Security Advisor until he finds someone to take up the role. That's because part of the problem is that he's also replacing the deputy, we are told, at the National Security Advisor, and a number of other senior figures at the NSA were removed just a few weeks ago on the advice of Laura Loomer, a right-wing activist who told Donald Trump they weren't loyal enough to him and to his vision. In fact, if Rubio does become the National Security Advisor, he will combine the role with Secretary of State. He won't give the other one up. And that will be the first time that has happened since Henry Kissinger, there's a name from the past, managed to combine both roles in the Nixon White House. So just to recap what has happened, Mike Waltz out as National Security Advisor at the White House. He will move to the United Nations as ambassador, almost certainly going to be confirmed by the Senate. That is a Senate confirmable position. And in the interim, Marco Rubio, who is Secretary of State, will also act as interim National Security Advisor to Donald Trump.
All right, that is Alan Fisher joining us live from the White House. Thank you very much, Alan.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.